Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. This is the Random Refuge and my name is Wouter, and in this series of videos we play Shadowdark solo by using the Omen Game Master emulator. It's a scene generator, it's a collection of oracles and also a couple of procedures, and they are all ruled by the mighty D10. And so this is our sixth video in this series in which we follow our sea wolf who goes by the name of Hagen, who is shipwrecked on these Isles of Undrek. And as our source of inspiration we are using the Cursed Scroll Zine, number 3, Midnight Sun, the Isles of Undrek. And so last time when we left the story, our three heroes, that is Hagen, Tira and Ivar, they just barely managed to escape the village of Bright River, where they fled from the warriors of the Jarl of the village, goes by the name of Helga, and they just managed to escape. They left a fatal victim there, one of the bodyguards from Helga, and they exited the village in the pitch black, where they meet up with their new friends Jorunn and her two companions as they try and make their way towards the house of Jorunn, who lives outside the village. And one thing that is of interest for me in the story is that apparently this Jorunn, of which we don't know all that much, she apparently knows that this seer that assists Helga is actually a sea hag who goes by the name of Brugerta, who poses as the seer. And this Jorunn actually knows she is a sea hag and that she lives in a place about 4 days from the village of Bright River, which is knowledge that no one else in this village apparently has. So that's something for us to figure out in perhaps the following scene. See if we can develop the story of Jorunn a little bit more, because how does it come that she has this knowledge when no one else does? So let's explore that for a little bit. First up, we in the previous episode we had this fatality, this great North warrior that was killed by our three warriors. This is something that perhaps will have consequences later in the story if our heroes make their way back to Bright River, for example. So this is something that we will write down in the story list that we have with Omen. So let's add this to our story list that we've created here. This last entry that we have, number 5, is to lift the spell of the sea hag over Helga and Bright River, and this quest was given by Jorunn. So we will add a 6th storyline now, and we will need to roll a name for this North. So here we have this table that we will roll, and his name of this slain warrior was Odin, and does he have a title? Odin the Serpent. Or we already have a serpent. It's one of our main characters, Ivar the Serpent, so I'm going to re-roll that one. On a 13 we have the Lucky. So he wasn't all that lucky when he encountered our heroes. So Odin the Lucky. So I've written this down. Odin the Lucky was killed by Hagen and his crew. He was the champion of Helga in Bright River. And by adding this to our story list, we give this possibility to Omen to perhaps trigger this part of the storyline again in our story later on. So now let's return to our story. This is our last entry, and we are going to create a new scene. So the previous scene was a 4th scene, so we are writing a 5th scene now. And again, this brings us to one of the questions that I addressed in the previous video is how do you know when the next scene will take place? If you find that interesting, you should watch episode 3, where I give a bit more advice on how to do that, but I won't go into this discussion again. Instead, we will be using the same argumentation. So I will be setting up the scene, and only then will I specify where and when this scene will take place. So if you like to know the reasoning behind this, if you would like to know this philosophy, you can watch this 3rd episode where I go a bit more into detail about when to end and when to start a new scene and how to specify where and when this new scene is taking place. But like I said in the introduction of this video, one thing that I would like to know more about is the story of Jorunn. How is it that she knows this sea hack? Perhaps one of the things that I've discussed in previous videos is that perhaps she somehow has magical abilities. She can detect magic, which should be very rare because usually everyone who has magical abilities is gathered in a community of seers where they are trained and where all this magic is gathered. So perhaps this Jorunn managed to keep a low profile, to live a normal life apparently, but somehow she detects magic. That's one possibility. Another possibility that I have in mind is that perhaps this Jorunn isn't actually a farmer. She just owns a large farm because she's actually very rich, because in a previous life she was an adventurer and she went on a big adventure, came back, returned, was very rich because she did find one of these hordes from the Sea Kings long ago who stashed their treasure on these isles. So this idea is taken from one of the hexes, one of the keyed hexes that we have in this setting. That is that there are treasure hoards hidden in these isles from kings long gone, who kept their treasure on these isles, who stored their treasure on these isles. And so perhaps this Jorunn actually found such a treasure, but not before she encountered this sea hack in her lair, and perhaps that's where she has this information from. So that would be like another explanation. So that is something that I would like to keep open still. These are just ideas now. Once we write them down, these become like the facts of our story. And I like to keep things a little bit open so we can fill them in later on once we need that information. So these are just ideas that I'm playing around with. But so for now, let's create a new scene and see where the story takes us. So the first thing we do when we create a scene is to decide on a scene rating. The previous ones I decided randomly, and I will do the same. So I roll a d6, divide by 2, because a scene rating would be either 1, a 2, or a 3. So on a 2, this will become a scene rating of 1. So another scene rating of 1. So let's share my Omen flowchart here. So if we create a new scene, the first thing we do is we set the scene rating. We rolled the scene rating. On a scene rating of 1, there's always an added team, and a rating of 1 means this is going to be a completely unknown scene, potentially a dangerous one as well. So now let's see if a team is added. Yes, a team was added on a rating of 1. There's always an addition. So now we have to roll for which team is added to the team table. And on a roll of 1, this one we haven't seen yet in this demonstration of the game. The 1 is the emotion team, And now we have to make our team state roll. I will share a little bit about that team later, but first let's make our team state roll. So in case you need the refresher to make a team state roll, we ideally want to roll low. We want to roll a success. We have to roll our D10 and we want to roll equal or below a target number. This target number is made of the scene rating plus the number of tokens we are having at this moment. A scene rating is 1 and I have these 3 physical tokens still to show. So we want to roll a 4 or below, in which case we are rolling a success. And if you roll low enough, there's a chance to trigger the critical success. So let's make that roll. Hopefully this time we roll low on a 0, which is a 10 on the D10. We always have a critical fail. And this is really interesting because now that we have rolled our team state roll, we find the corresponding team state. So we had a team of emotion or team state on a roll of 10 means we are having a permanent negative trait. Let me read for you what this means before we try and fill in those details. So again, very surprising turn of events in this new scene. So we have our emotion team state. We have a permanent adverse character trait. Something triggers such a strong negative reaction, the experience turns into a permanent trait. So this emotion team really tries to focus you on the emotional state of your PC, because often we play these heroes who are incredibly brave and who are doing all these bold things, while we hardly ever think about like their emotional what's going on inside their head, the doubts that they are having, for example. Where do they get this drive from, or what are they afraid of? And so we have, like most teams, we have 4 different team states, going from a beneficial character trait that can be permanent to something, an inspirational thought on the success roll. On a fail, we have these unsettling thoughts, so something like fear, for example. But we rolled a critical fail, and this emotion is so strong for Hagen that this negative reaction is so strong that this turned into a personality trait of Hagen. So this idea is so strong that this becomes a permanent adverse character trait. So let's think about this for a moment. Let's try to fill in some of those details. And once we are done with that, we can present the scene for ourselves and try and solve it and move the story forward. So let's take some notes first. We had a scene rating of 1. Our team was the emotion team. We rolled a critical fail, and this turned into a permanent adverse character trait. So I like to keep track of these things. You don't need to do that if you don't like to keep all those extensive notes, but I find it useful if I haven't played for a while to go back to my notes and see the kind of rulings that I made, the kind of rolls that I made. So I have this feeling of this continuity in our story. But let's return to our flowchart here to complete the scene first. So first it asks us if we have any expectations. If we don't have any expectations, we can roll 4 times on the sparks table. Now I gave us a couple of ideas that I have, so we could use this or that oracle. But I fear with my expectations that I just shared now, we are sticking a bit too much within the existing story, and I like to add a little bit of new narrative bits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll 4 times on this spark table. This will create another expectation, and we can flesh that expectation out. We can add more details by using the story thread oracle, by using the intensity die, by using the yes and no oracle. Basically all of these you have seen in the previous videos. So I hope by now that most of these mechanics are starting to get familiar with you, in case you have seen our previous videos. So let's first roll 4 times on the sparks table, and we have to make sure that our question is clear. So what are we asking the sparks table? So we know that Hagen and his companions left together with Jorunn and her 2 companions, that the idea is to travel to their farm, and once they are at this farm, that they will get their gear and urgently leave the surroundings of Bright River, because probably these other warriors will try and look for them, will try and hunt them, so they have to leave this village and the surroundings very urgently. And then they will travel towards the location of the sea hag that Jorunn can share with Hagen. And I've taken a look before on this map, and we know from Jorunn her information that the location of the sea hag's lair is about a 4 days walk. So I noticed this feature on the map, which is like a cave at the sea. So this is really perfectly for our friends to travel there and to say that this is the lair of the sea hag. So they are traveling to this location. So this scene that we are now envisioning can be anything between leaving Bright River and walking in the darkness towards Jorunn's farm. It can be about an encounter with Jorunn and her friends, her family that's at the farm, but it equally can be about something that is going on while they are traveling this wilderness before reaching the lair of the sea hag. So again, if you find that interesting, have a look at our 3rd video where we discussed a bit more how to decide where and when a scene is taking place, because that is what we are doing now exactly. So I'm going to ask the spark table what type of action and element triggered this permanent negative trait. So I'm going to be rolling on equally on this action and on this element table, and from each I'm going to write down 2 words. So we are ending up with 4 words, and from these 4 words I'm going to create a single meaning by using 2 words from those 4. So let's first roll our 2 actions to pick from. So we are rolling on this large D100 table. So our first action is 17. So this is capture. So perhaps we were captured, or we have to capture something, or Jorunn captured something, or 82 is share. So now let's roll 2 elements. So, and this will give us like something of a description of an action, of an event, something that is happening, or something that happened. So let's roll twice for the element. That would be wound. That doesn't sound good at all. Let's try another one. And we have relation. So to summarize, we have Hagen, who is having a very strong negative emotion about something that is happening or that just happened. Could be something to do with capture, share, wound, relation. So it could be like capture a relation, share a wound, share a relation. Let's think about that for a moment. So one of these words that I found interesting is this relation. So we are going to try and flesh out the scene, these words, and I will be using the this or that oracle for the question if this relation is either a relation of Jorunn or if it's perhaps a relation somehow from Hagen. So to do that, we will be using the this or that oracle, but I will make it unlikely that this is a relation from Hagen, because that would be really weird. So we are going to make it likely that it's a relation from Jorunn that we are talking about. So 7 or lower. Look at that. We rolled an 8. So this relation, I'm definitely going to be using this word. This relation is about a relation from Hagen. So that's like that's like a huge potential there for a new storyline there. So we just have to make sure that we don't make the story now too complicated to see what we will do with it. So let's ask the oracle if this relation is family or if it's more like someone from the same neighborhood, someone from the same village, perhaps like a friend or something like that. So let's use the yes/no oracle for this. So we are going to ask if this is family. I would make that unlikely. So is this family from Hagen 3 or lower? On a 1, a 1 is always a strong yes. So is this family? Yes, more than family. This is a very strong family. So what do we know about Hagen, his family? We only know that he is named after his father Hjalmar, and his father Hjalmar is on his isle a bit of a legend because he is credited to have slain a giant, as we established in the first episode. And that's all we know about Hagen and his father. So with this very strong yes, I would rule that this has to be a very close connection for Hagen. So I would say either his mother or a brother or a sister, for example. So to establish this, I'm going to roll just a simple d6. 1 to 3, this is a male connection. It's a 5. So this is a female connection. So we have these words now. So we have relation, and I'm going to be using the other word. So we are going to be pairing these words. Capture the relation, and we already asked some questions about this, so this starts to make sense for me now. So we did roll 4 times on the spark table, and we now have a single meaning. We have captured the relation. We already asked a bit about this relation, so this could either be his mother or his sister, and we also know that this triggered a very negative emotion, for a very strong negative reaction to this encounter. So what I would say is I don't want to use the story of bringing Hagen's mother into this, but I think it will be more exciting, gives us more possibilities to say that this relation is his sister. So we determined that this is a family, and we also determined that this is a very close family by rolling a 1 on that question. So we also established that this is a female relative, so this is going to be his sister, and she is captured somehow, and this seeing his sister captured triggered a very negative permanent trait in Hagen. So what I would say is we already know that this Jorunn, there's something fishy about this this NPC, and she also has this heated character type, which we established by using the Omen chorus booklet. So this NPC encounter generator, we established that she has this heated personality, which usually is used for NPCs that are very difficult to deal with, and that are just they're only one step away from being openly hostile towards our PC. So we know that this Jorunn has this difficult character type to deal with. So imagine that as they arrive in Jorunn's farmstead, and as they spend a short rest there before setting on their journey, imagine Hagen's surprise if he sees his sister there working as a slave from Jorunn. One thing I would like to check with this theory is if this enslaved sister, if she is actually working in Jorunn's farm, or if this is in some other building, perhaps, that she is working. Perhaps it's not this Jorunn who is actually the owner of his sister, but perhaps there's somebody else in the household that we have not defined yet. So I will be making a roll, and we will make this we'll make this unlikely that somebody else is the owner of this enslaved sister of Hagen. So we'll make this unlikely. So we rolled a 10. So again, a 10 is a very strong no, meaning that if we asked, is there somebody else the owner of this enslaved sister, then no, definitely not. Jorunn is in all possible ways that you can imagine responsible for the enslavement of Hagen's sister. So big story twist in this scene right now. So first let's give his sister a name, and then we have to work out a little bit how it came to be that she is working as this slave girl in this farmstead. So let's first roll up a name for her. So let's roll a name for this sister. So this is Brenna. And so this is what I've written. Basically, his sister is added to their company as an extra NPC, and this is how it went down. So Hagen and his crew made their way into the large buildings of Jorunn's farm. Jorunn explains they killed Oddrun, the champion of Helgas, and Helga's men surely will come and look for them here any minute now. She points to a couple of servants and snarls to help these guests pack rations and torches. And then a thin girl, about the same age as Hagen, rushes forwards to help him. It takes a minute before he recognizes her. "Brenna," he gasps loudly. "Hagen, finally, have you come to buy me out and release me from this woman?" As she points to Jorunn. "How? What?" Hagen has so many questions, but turns towards Jorunn. "Are you responsible for her fate?" he shouts to Jorunn. And now all close in on Jorunn, who starts to protest. Ivar raises his great axe at her. "You will tell me everything you know about this lair, and we will take her with us. We will not return until we are loaded with riches, and if we don't find any riches there, we will return and take all this from you. This is a promise, Jorunn of Bright River." And it's mainly a narrative scene, so we didn't use much of an action resolution, didn't make any rolls for this, because the meat of this scene really is how they encounter very unexpectedly the sister of Hagen and how she joins the company. And again, we have a bit of a storyline that we can later flesh out even more. But originally, this scene started out as a permanent negative trait for Hagen. So he is changed, and how is he changed by this encounter? Well, as a permanent negative trait, I've written here on his character sheet. So he has this hostility with Jorunn. He has a strong dislike of this woman who originally is their quest giver. So this is a bit of an odd situation, and now Hagen cannot manage to work with her, to work for her. So he will just threaten her, and she will have to tell everything she knows about this lair. And then the idea is that Hagen and their crew go there and try and get as many riches as they can find there. Because in our storyline, one of the original quest lines here is that they need a longship and friendly relations with the community so they can sail back to their home isle. And to do that, they first need their money, but they also need to find a community. Although they did find a community, Bright River, they also have to create a bond with the people there. And to do so, perhaps they can get rid of this sea hag. So by going to this lair, they hopefully can at least fulfill two of these requisites to get back home, now also with his lost sister. So that was a very exciting scene. A lot of twists and turns there, a lot of development in our story, something very unpredictable. So I hope you find that useful. Remember, there's already a couple of episodes before this video where our story started earlier on. If you like this type of content, please hit the bell, subscribe to the channel so you stay up to date whenever I publish a new video and all that. Thank you so much for watching. See you the next time.